consumer wants to hear stories of people who have actually had a similar story to their own. People want to see themselves. We need to learn how, as brands, to storytell in such a way that consumers feel like they are the center of the story and not me.
Out of all the presidents we've ever had, who's done the best storytelling?
Donald Trump.
It's Donald Trump.
He's a marketing machine.
Joining us today is Mark Young, CEO of Zona Health, a biohacker, entrepreneur, and marketer.
As a leader in health innovation, he's focused on developing cutting-edge biohacking tools to optimize human performance. Stay tuned for his insights.
People who are doing low sodium diets because their blood pressure drive me up a wall. It's not that the sodium is causing the blood pressure. There's a correlation. There's no causation. And the correlation in most cases is
You have the whole Maha movement. And I think one of the biggest parts of the Maha movement is the awareness part of it.
their entire purpose is education. What's funny about it is that with Zona, it's like, well, you hold it and you squeeze it, and people immediately go to, oh, it's like one of those grip. No. Oh, it's like, no. Oh, no. Okay, if you're done guessing, let me explain what this does. Knees deep in the FDA. The reality is the FDA is looking out for consumers. Their entire purpose is to protect consumers from predatory marketers.
Would you say that there's potential corruption within the FDA? Welcome to another episode of A Healthy Point of View podcast. I'm your host, Sam Tejada. And as usual, we're bringing experts from all over the world about health, wellness, and beauty. And today we have an expert who's really, he's out in front, but he's also the guy behind the scenes. You see a lot of these big biohackers and all these people out there. There's someone who's making sure they're moving the needle for them. Today we have a biohacker himself, which we're going to figure out how he takes care of his health and how he makes it happen for other people. We have Mark Young here in the studio. Mark, man, pleasure to have you here.
Appreciate it, buddy. Appreciate
Awesome,
the invite.
man.
It's nice because you're local too. Like I'm right down the road from you.
There's a lot of people in the biohacking space here in South Florida.
Oh, so I'm from Detroit originally, and I moved to South Florida about 12, 13 years ago. And I'm like, people here are just better looking.
Yeah, they take care of their health.
It's just a more beautiful place to be. I got to be honest. Like I go back home and I'm like, come on, folks, get with it, right? Like, no, South Florida is amazing.
How long did he move here from, how long ago from Detroit?
Like 12, 13 years. It was late, 2013, whatever that is, till 12 years now.
Okay. How many years do you live in Detroit for?
Oh, you're trying to do the math on me here. I get you. Yeah. I was in Detroit for what? I went to New York for a little while. So I was in Detroit for like 37 years. So wow. I was a Detroiter. And then I went to New York for a short stint and then ended up coming here to Fort Lauderdale. And
yeah, man.
This is home now.
I'm originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so I'm a Midwester as well.
Oh, you totally get it. I actually used to work right outside of Milwaukee in Brookville.
Oh, Brookville. Okay.
You know the area?
Yeah, there's Brookfield?
Brookville.
Okay.
Brookville, is that the name of it?
There's Brookfield also.
Brookfield.
Yeah,
Brookfield.
Brookfield. Yeah, Brookfield is like Wauwatosa area out that way. Yeah. Midwesters are a little bit different, man.
Well, because of work ethic.
Yeah, the work ethic is one. They're a lot nicer. I always tell people, it's like, you could go to the Midwest and you'll run into like a straight up thug looking person and they'll be polite. The nicest person ever, opening up the door for you. So man, Detroit. So I want to talk about that before we get into all the biohacking and everything else.
Yeah. Tell me.
You 37 years in Detroit.
Yeah, that's right. And you can do the math on that. I'm turning 50 in a couple of weeks.
You don't look 50 though, man.
That's all that matters.
Hey, by the time I turn 50, I better look as good as you.
I guarantee you.
But I know you've been going to Liquor Reader for a while, so I'm going to take a little credit on that.
I got unused gift cards. What are you talking about?
Exactly. I was trying to wipe the dust off those gift cards that you brought in today from back then. So, Detroit, Michigan, man. There was a lot of manufacturing over there back in the day. Yep. And if you were there for 37 years, you remember when there was just so many jobs out there. I went to Detroit probably a handful of years ago. It was probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And man, it was just different.
Detroit's it's an interesting city. I actually I was a college professor for many years. You can peel away the layers here. And I taught at a lot of schools up in the Detroit area. And Detroit's got a really interesting history that a lot of people don't realize. Like Detroit, they used to call Detroit the Paris of the Midwest. Like it used to be just this incredibly beautiful city.
Right.
And then when Henry Ford ended up coming into the city, well, there was a bigger thing. Detroit being a beautiful, beautiful city, there was actually a history lesson there is after Vietnam, or after the Korean War actually was when it all began, there was a movement towards giving soldiers who came back land to start to gentrify suburbs.
Okay.
And what ended up happening was in most of those, I mean, people know Detroit's obviously very racially polarized, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm a white guy from Detroit, and it's like, but Detroit is the blackest city in the country, or was at one point. And literally down the street is a city called Livonia that was the whitest city in all of the country. And you're like, man, you're literally like right down the street from each other. What weird polarization, right? And then in Dearborn, we have the largest population of Arabs outside of the Middle East.
Wow.
And then in the Southfield Bloomfield area, we've got one of the highest concentration of Jews outside of the Middle East. And it's like, it's just weird how pocketed and segregated the city is.
The Midwest is, Milwaukee was actually rated it was rated the most segregated city in the United States for quite a few years. Same thing. I've noticed that in the Midwest, well, all the Jews are here, the Germans are here, the Hmong people are over here.
Just
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had in the city there, especially when Henry Ford came in, because he was, Henry Ford, brilliant for all of his whatever, but Henry Ford actually was very much a segregationalist. And it's funny because I used to show my students actually when I was doing this lesson, and I would talk to them about segregation and how this happened. And like, the city of Detroit was here, and then the city of Dearborn was here, and then there's a city called Dearborn Heights that actually wraps around Dearborn. And that's where the white blue collar people were allowed to live. And then there was the Inkster Romulus area, and that's where all the black people had to live. And it was very structured intentionally that way. But even before that, when soldiers came back from war, which were predominantly white at the time, they were given land, an area that they could actually go gentrify the suburbs. And what ended up happening to the city of Detroit, for so much of its beauty, it was built for a population that it never hit.
Wow.
So the city was built for like 1.5 million people to live there, was the infrastructure that was put in. But I think the city never reached over 750,000 people, because by the time the city started populating, there was a migration out to war. And then when they came back, they never went back to the city, which is how the city ended up with such a high concentration of minorities, because all of the white people ended up going off to war and then coming home and moving to the suburbs.
Oh, wow.
So like there was this weird polarization that was never even intentional.
That's interesting.
That it just happened. And it's like, so the city is still super weird. I used to teach at a place called Henry Ford Community College. And I used to always, like, there was a Saturday morning class that I just loved teaching. So semester after semester, I would always teach that class, no matter what else I was doing professionally. And it was funny to me because it was in Dearborn, literally down the street from Ford World headquarters. So you would think Ford World headquarters, right? That's where all the engineers, that's where all, literally, I don't know, I could probably count on one hand in years how many times I had a white male student.
Really?
Yeah. Weirdest thing. Like my entire classroom would be either people from the city of Detroit, which tended to be black, people from the city of Dearborn, which tended to be Arab, or white women who were single moms trying to go back to school. It was and I loved it because I love racial diversity.
No, you probably learned a lot too from the different cultures and everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it was amazing because I love having conversations with people of different opinions.
Right.
So I loved it, but it was weird to me that a class was not integrated. It was in fact very much misrepresentative of the population.
See, that's very interesting.
Yeah, Detroit's weird.
Yeah. See, this is why I wanted to touch up on it, because when you talk to people that have been in a city like that in the Midwest for so many years, you learn stuff from that.
Well, and I'll add to this. I didn't grow up in the city of Detroit. I actually grew up in a city called Taylor, which, again, talking migratory patterns, Taylor was where all the people from Tennessee and Kentucky moved up to get jobs in the automotive industry, which is actually how my grandfather ended up in Michigan, because he was from Georgia, went up there for a Ford Motor job.
Wow.
After he retired, they moved back to Georgia. But my dad's family was from Canada, so they came over into Detroit from the Canadian border. But so I grew up in what they called Taylor, Tucky.
Okay.
So here we are with all this racial segregation all over the place. But it's like the city I grew up in was, shotguns and pickup trucks, right?
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, and now, man, you go there because, obviously a lot of that manufacturing's gone. It's overseas. And everything's boarded up. You see the factories that are they're still standing there, but just boarded up.
They were doing a lot of comeback with CompuWare moving down there. Then General Motors moved into the Renaissance Center building. They did get a lot of business back, and then they really started building like brownstone housing and stuff like that. Big foodie scene. And then at 2020 and COVID, just the lockdowns in Michigan were so tight that the city just collapsed again. And then it was no one went to work. Everybody worked from home. So everybody at General Motors and CompuWare and all these big industry, white collar buildings that were down there, all the restaurants went out because no one was at work anymore. So there was no lunch crowd.
That sucks because they've tried so hard to revitalize the whole city so many different times.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting thing to watch. I'd prefer to watch it from here,
from the beach. So especially during the winter, man. When everybody's
during the winter, absolutely.
I do that to my buddies that I grew up with. They're like, oh yeah, I gotta go to work, this that, and I'll be like on A1A by the Liquavita store, and it's like, hey, yeah, this is where I'm at. Palm trees, blue skies.
100%.
So
I live downtown, and I do those jealousy shots over the balcony.
Yeah. So no, man, that's good. Last time I went to Michigan, I flew into Detroit, and I went to a city called Utica.
Utica,
yeah, and the Utica was beautiful. It was
Utica's
very
a nice
new.
city. That's out on the east side, yeah.
So cool, man. So let's get into a little bit more into what you do.
You're telling people I'm an expert, then you just start talking about Detroit.
Hey, but you know what? You came off with some expert stuff on Detroit.
Absolutely.
So you're in the marketing PR. Well, to begin with, you're a serial entrepreneur. You're involved in a lot of different things, a lot of health and wellness products, modalities. You participate yourself in a lot of biohacking, and on the marketing PR side, you've taken a lead on really diving into this industry when it comes to the functional medicine biohacking space. And I know that because obviously I know a lot of people that you represent. And not only that, but every big conference or a lot of these private rooms that a lot of people try to get into.
We're there together.
We run into each other. It's like, hey, Sam, hey, Mark, So we see each other. So what got you into this industry?
Yeah, that's funny you say that because that's like, that's a long journey. I will say that what officially got me into this space itself. Now, my dad was always the big supplement guy and so on, but I never got into it like that. Wasn't it? I'm always like 10 years later. But years ago, I ended up working with a client after I decided that I wasn't going to stay in the education world. And most of that is because I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And if you're an entrepreneur at heart, like bureaucracy is like kills your soul. And being in education was like, I loved education because I could impact students and I could change trajectories of people's lives.
Amazing.
Like, it was like I was able to have a direct impact. And then when I moved into more of an administrative role in education, like I was able to empower people to do that. It was during a time that just the Department of Education, like I'll go on record and say, I hate the Department of Education. So, all this talk about should it go away, I'm like, good riddance. But I know, it's just, I'm jilted. But the reality is like when I left that space, I really wasn't sure what I was going to do, to be honest with you. Like, I just want to reinvent myself. I don't know. I'd done this for so long. And I started working in a consulting role for a company that was doing red light therapy. Now, mind you, that was like 13 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And it was like red light. It was a medical device that they promoted as joint detoxification, within FDA code. And I ended up getting this huge baptism by fire into FDA and FTC and so on, and really learned a lot about, shortwave, ultraviolet, and red light, laser, so on and so forth. I got a real induction into that, and I'm like, wow, this like really works. And this is before red light was trendy. Like everybody and their brother nowadays is red light something. This was way before that. Wow. So this was like magic. And we started doing, and my dad actually owns an advertising agency that's based in Detroit. That's
nice.
Where we still are. So I'd always been adjacent to this type of industry, and then working on a consulting basis with this company, partnered with what he was doing. I'm like, wow, this is kind of interesting. I ended up, interestingly enough, this is back in the big, call now to order TV days, because it was before everybody was very acclimated to internet ordering, particularly older demographics. And I'd opened a call center because I'm like, man, we can't find a call center that can actually handle the volume we were driving. We were doing like $500,000 to $1 million a week in media just on Fox.
Wow. Do you do the call center here in the U.S. or overseas?
It was here in the U.S., and it was all distributed network and whatnot. So I started this call center within like a minute and a half. We had 165 agents on the ground, work from home. And I think it was amazing. Like it just happened. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. That's what I do. Right. Like laugh. And we started working with this client. And it was like, well, that's interesting. And then, our next client into the space just coincidentally was a hair regrowth shampoo called Puradora. And it was just like, oh, interesting. So we worked with them. And then I ended up getting into some other stuff. And it's just like people who introduce you to other people they know. And everybody's in a similar space. So yeah, that kind of happened. And then I ended up, as I actually work with a company called Zona Health, which is a medical device that uses isometric hand grip therapy and, I'll say fights or combats hypertension. I made an investment in that company. And then years later they came and were like, hey, I know we've got this thing, but we need to make some leadership changes and make some business decisions. Would you be interested in leading this company? And I'm like, not really. Like I have a business of my own, but thanks. Yeah. And so we ended up kind of, doing some, I used the word negotiating, but it really wasn't a negotiation. It was more of a, how can you help? And I'm like, well, I'd love to help. What do you need? And that was a real short-term intention. But I've been CEO of that company too now for 7 years, which is funny because it started as a 6-month commitment. 7 years later, I'm, up to my knees in FDA whatevers. And I look back to those 12, 13 years ago dealing with red light therapy and even further than that and all of the work that I had to do with auditing through the Department of Education and all this other compliance related stuff and regulatory visits. And I do the same thing now. I just do it with the FDA.
Right.
Now it's not the DOE, it's the FDA now, or it's the FTC when it comes to marketing. But it's the same type of regulatory and compliance things that we deal with.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been an interesting journey along the way. Obviously, my involvement with Zona has opened up an incredible amount of doors. Just simply because I'm present at things, sometimes just as a healthcare CEO. But as you mentioned, like as a marketer, like I end up meeting a bunch of people and it's become my passion, and longevity has absolutely become my predominant space, if you will, but that's both personal and professional.
Yeah, because you're passionate about it as 100%. Well too. It's not like you're just doing it to do it.
Yeah.
But initially when I first connected with you, and I saw you speaking on stage, it was in regards to the Zona device.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we started actually communicating and talking more, and I started researching you, I was like, hold on, he does a lot more than just this product. So
I'm like an onion.
Well, what does he really do? Or what does he not do? But so let's talk about the Zona a little bit, just so people can kind of understand it. So this device, you say that it helps, bring hypertension down.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, I would never say that from a claims perspective, so don't frame me. But
which we're going to go actually, because you brought up a good point about the FDA, FTC, and a lot of the people that are listening, obviously have clinics and whatnot.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a topic that we're going to have to touch up on, because I've dealt with that a lot.
I'm sure.
And it's not fun.
No.
So, but go ahead. Let's go.
Not at all.
Let's talk about the
Zona.
No,
so Zona itself, it's an isometric device. I mean, holding it in the palm of your hand, and there's a whole algorithm to the way that it guides you through a therapy. So it's, I should say exercise, not therapy, but 2 minutes on your right hand, take a pause, 2 minutes on your left hand. But it's the ultimate biohack, if I can quote Dave Asprey on that and say, Dave Asprey's been an investor in the company for many years. Like he was one of the earliest investors in the company. So I've known Dave a long time. But what's funny about it is that with Zona, it is such a counterintuitive sale, because it's like, well, you hold it and you squeeze it and people immediately go to, oh, it's like one of those grip. Nope, it's the exact opposite. And they're like, oh, it's like, no. Oh, no, like I need you to get rid of everything you're thinking, because the human brain wants to chunk things, right? It wants to draw associations, because that way things are easier to understand. And I'm always trying to unpack that going, no. Okay, if you're done guessing, let me explain what this does.
Right.
But the reality is it actually guides you. And because it's all hand grip, it doesn't, grandma can do it, right? Because it's the equivalent, if people think of grip as being this squeeze and release type motion. And that's considered concentric versus eccentric, right? Concentric is the up of a sit-up, eccentric being the down of a sit-up. And that's the up, down, the expansion and contraction. Isometric is literally equal measurement. It is holding something at exactly the same strength. So it would be the equivalent of a plank to a sit-up.
Okay.
So, but the problem is planks don't give you biofeedback, right? Nowhere in a plank does the plank tell you if you're doing it too weird, or if you fidgeted, or if you popped your butt in the air for a minute, or if you moved your shoulders around. Like, and then people will do a low plank, and then they'll go to a high plank. And sure, you're doing a plank. I'm not disagreeing with that. Your abs are probably, getting something out of that. But from the absolute benefit of isometrics, most people aren't getting that, because they would need a trainer standing over them, kicking them every time they fidgeted, right? Because you break the isometric every time you move. It's like balancing an egg on a spoon, right? Like as you're walking across the room, like, sure, you can move around, but one bad move and the egg cracks. It needs to be a perfect hold, or you're going to have that problem. Now, isometrics itself, what's interesting, and I'll give you some science on this because I actually enjoy this, is isometric itself, your body moves towards comfort, not discomfort.
Right.
And in isometric, if you've ever done anything where, like, imagine that you were just doing a wall sit. We've all done wall sits, right?
Right.
And you do it. First 20 seconds, you're like, yeah, whatever, I could do this all day, blah, blah, blah. You're probably 45 seconds in and you're like, ooh. A minute in, you're kind of, rubbing yourself against the wall. You're kind of, doing like, adductor kind of movements, moving your legs back and forth, like, because it gets hurt. I mean, it starts to hurt, right? And the body wants to move towards that comfort. Using Zona, which is entirely a biofeedback exercise device, it's giving you audio and visual cues if you go out of range in the least bit. So it's telling you, nope, a little more, nope, a little less, nope, beep, 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 beep. And you're like, rah. So it requires that active meditation, if you will, to focus on it. But what happens when your body goes into a state of discomfort is it immediately triggers that fight or flight, that sympathetic nervous system response in the body. So Zona is triggering that sympathetic nervous system, which is immediately putting your body into that fight or flight state. One of the things that does, obviously, is because if you're holding this device in your hand, obviously your arm is going to start feeling that tension, usually after about 60 seconds. And your brain doesn't know what's going on because that feels weird. And why would we put ourselves in a state of discomfort intentionally? This must not be intentional. And your body flips into survival tactic and immediately releases nitric oxide throughout the body. So your body gets flushed with nitric oxide, which increases vasodilation because the brain is trying to get blood to flow to whatever the area is that's feeling this weird constriction.
Right.
Okay. Nitric oxide, we all know, is the body's own vasodilator. So many great things that happen when nitric oxide takes place. Funny enough, hypertension is the number one reason people use the Zona. Second is erectile dysfunction. Because it's a blood flow issue.
Yeah.
Like fix
100%.
it with nitric oxide and you're good to go. So that's the surface level of the short-term benefit of it. But from a long-term benefit, and this is where I say it's kind of that combo shot to the corner pocket, that is the stress in the muscle group requires the release of sodium at a cellular level because otherwise the muscle is going to spasm, right? You're holding it here. Muscles will spasm. That's why you need electrolytes when your muscles are stressed, so on. You end up releasing sodium at a cellular level, but at a cellular level, sodium and potassium must always stay at a steady balance. Right? So when sodium releases, potassium also releases. It has to in order to keep that balance. Potassium moving through the endothelium, which is the endothelial lining, is the innermost the lining of the cardiovascular system. When potassium moves through there, it actually, I'll use the word rehydrates the endothelium because as we age, because of lack of proper nutrition or lack of proper inputs, mineralization, whatever we want to argue about, the endothelium is like a sponge. And over time, that sponge just begins to get a little brittle. Well, try to take a dry sponge and clean out the inside of a glass, right? It doesn't bend anymore.
Right.
That's kind of how your cardiovascular system happens over time. And the endothelium is actually what manages the blood pressure system, if you will. It manages the pressure in the body. So when pressure goes up, if the endothelium is hard, it doesn't sense that pressure is high. So pressure will just keep climbing and the endothelium doesn't even know that's happening.
Wow.
So by pushing that potassium release through the endothelium, what happens physiologically is that your endothelium begins to soften, kind of like you're dripping water onto a sponge. Little by little, the whole thing starts to become more flexible.
Okay.
And as the endothelium becomes more flexible and actually begins to go back to its homeostatic state, what happens is that endothelium starts to trigger the whole body and go, it's almost like a holy cow, like when did the pressure go up? I didn't know this even happened. Right. So I say that we're literally turning back chronology, that time is going backwards for your cardiovascular system because you don't know a 7-year-old with high blood pressure.
Right.
Right. You don't know a 19-year-old with high blood pressure, save specific medical issues. No one needs to throw out the exceptions. But the reality is blood pressure tends to be something that we just accept as being a hallmark of aging.
Right.
And I argue and say that's not true. Healthy is healthy regardless of age.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, that's interesting how you say that, about how we've accepted that as being as a hallmark of aging, and really that shouldn't be the case, right? What should be the case is really having a good understanding of why it's happening, and then figuring out what you could do to potentially reverse that or prevent it, right?
Root cause.
So this device, are you guys selling this to clinics, to the direct consumer?
It's direct to consumer. We've got an affiliate network. We got plenty of clinics that use it. It's a big deal. It's been around the market for a long time. The issue is the explanation of how and why it works is just so counterintuitive that as a marketer, it's a frustrating message. I'll be honest, because as a marketer, I'm telling you, no, just hold this device in your hand and use this, for 12 minutes a day and your blood pressure goes down. Like, we as a society have just accepted, and it's what we call standard of care now, that if you go to a physician and your blood pressure is in any way elevated, you get a pill.
Yeah.
And we just take the pill. Like it's just so easy to do. And I tell people, my grandfather died a couple years ago and he was on 5 different types of blood pressure medications. And you know what he died of?
What's that?
Kidney failure.
Yeah.
Go figure.
That's all of the side effects that they don't highlight. Right.
Well, because your kidneys are filtration devices, right? Like your kidneys are filtering all this garbage. And it's and again, I'm not anti-pharma. I'm not, hate the pharmaceutical companies, but stay in your lane. Like pharmacology needs to have its place. It is not a surrogate for healthy living.
Yeah. A lot of people use it as a crutch, right? They rather take the pill versus doing the work.
And I'm going to argue one step deeper than that though, Sam. And I'm going to say a lot of people don't even know that there is work.
Right.
Like there's such a mysticism around what actually is a thing that I actually believe that, if you tell people you should do something instead of high blood intake, taking antihypertensives, most people's response would be, well, yeah, I probably should cut a lot of salt out of my diet. And no, salt is not the culprit. Like that's complete BS. Like people who are doing low sodium diets because their blood pressure drive me up a wall. Because sodium is not your problem. The reality is people with hypertension, they found elevated levels of sodium in their blood. That was a study that was done ages ago.
Right.
Okay, well, here's your blood pressure, and we found elevated levels of sodium. Okay, well, what if there was a cause of both of those things? Like, it's not that the sodium is causing the blood pressure. There's a correlation. There's no causation. And the correlation in most cases is sugar intake. You have too much sugar. Sugar causes your body to retain salt because salt balances sugar, right? I tell people it's like the spaghetti sauce. If it's too salty, you throw a little bit of sugar in it and take the saltiness out. Same way your body functions. You got too much sugar, your body will retain salt, but your body doesn't keep salt in the body. If you literally sat and just overdosed on an entire thing of salt right now, you'll just pee it out.
Yeah.
Your body doesn't hold it.
And Mark, the thing is sugar is the true killer, man. When you talk about inflammation,
everything.
When you talk about, and the thing is that when people hear sugar, people just think about candy. There's a lot of other things that are going to spike up that glucose.
Yes.
And there's even certain foods and fruits that will be on the high side of the glycemic index that will do it as well too. Eating too much of the certain breads, I
was going to say bread itself, right?
So that's something that people have to understand. It's what you're putting into your body, number one, and then number two, move your body. People are sitting around, and then you touched up on it's like making sure people know, because a lot of people just don't know. And I think that this is one of the things that you and I are doing a lot of, is bringing that awareness out there, especially right now where you have the whole MAHA movement, right? And I think one of the biggest parts of the MAHA movement is the awareness part of it.
Their entire purpose is education focused. And it's and that is I love the fact that there's such a tailwind to the wellness and longevity industry right now. because there is an awareness. And I'm going to say Maha's done a great job with it. But you know who I think actually brought the biggest amount of awareness to the wellness and longevity industry?
Who's that?
COVID.
Oh, yeah. That's,
You know,
100%.
I'm going to push it back
Yeah.
4 years and say if I can find a silver lining in anything, it's going to be that COVID put a spotlight on maybe not everything I've been told is true.
And I'll just say, man, our revenues at Liquid Vita went up since COVID.
Oh my gosh.
You know?
Absolutely.
So COVID did have a direct effect because, you know, what was happening during COVID is the people that were very unhealthy were the ones being affected the most, right? The people who had deficiencies in vitamin D3, people that had that were obese, you know, people who had respiratory issues and all kinds of stuff. Those are the ones that were really suffering the most. And I think that kind of like triggered a certain switch in a lot of people's heads where they're like, man, if another one of these things come around like this, another pandemic of some kind of virus, let me at least try to be prepared.
Well,
you know?
I think it even goes, and again, I'm going to go one step deeper than that. I'm going to say, yes, I agree with you on all of that. But I think there also was, politics aside, with you know, none of that included, that when we go into the side of maybe the insurance company or maybe the government or maybe the healthcare industry doesn't really know what they're talking about, because it doesn't matter what side of the argument you stood on, everyone had a question mark.
Right.
Like everybody was like, like what's going on right now? Like this doesn't feel good. And some people are like, no, we need to get vaccinated 12 times. And other people are like, no, they're just trying to kill you. Don't take it. Right. And you're like, how can you have such skepticism on both sides of a conversation?
Right.
And it's like, if anything, that's when everybody should have been united and been like, okay, hold on. But it just kept polarizing. But what it did do to this industry, and what we found from a marketing perspective, was telling the story on anything became easier. Like everything became easier to tell the story, because you could start a sentence with, well, you've been told, and everybody's like, okay, what have they lied about now? Like it was almost like the entire population was ready to hear about the next story, because people just, they lost their I'll say the older generation, my grandfather with 5 blood pressure medications, right? Like in his world, it was that's what the doctor said.
Right.
And you never questioned the doctor.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I think post-COVID, we found entire generations of people going, maybe my health is my problem. Maybe the insurance company doesn't always have my best interest at heart. And maybe
Right.
the government doesn't always have my best interest in heart. And maybe the physician doesn't, even if the physician has my best interest at heart, maybe he or she just doesn't know everything.
Right.
Maybe
Yep,
there's information out there that's available that I need to learn. So people started asking questions more, and I love that. And it, again, no political side being represented, but the point of science is to ask questions. That is science.
Yeah. I agree with
Questioning
that.
the science is science.
Right. Yep. So all right. So let's make a little quick
Do it.
shift here. Earlier, you mentioned about the FTC and the FDA,
Yeah, good times.
and now we're talking about the science.
Yeah.
Right. So it all kind of
yeah.
combines together here. You know, the industry that we're in, when we talk about functional medicine or alternative medicine, how some
Mhm.
people label it, there's a lot of things that there hasn't been that full research behind it, right? We know a lot of these things work based off of a lot of anecdotal data, right? Looking at a lot of case studies that physicians have within their own practice. They share it. There's groups, there's forums. But at the same time, when you start to try to talk about it publicly, online, written marketing material, you got some of these 3-letter agencies out there that they don't play. They don't like it.
Yeah.
And you as
Yeah.
listen, you as a marketer who has an agency, you have a huge responsibility when it comes to that, especially for your clients.
I was gonna say, we have a responsibility to our clients to always pay attention to that. But I don't think what a lot of people realize is, as an advertising agency owner, we have mutual culpability. If we say things and misrepresent a client or misrepresent a claim, like, sure, the client gets in trouble, but we too have responsibility. So it makes me laugh. Like sometimes I'll have a client that gets mad and goes, "You can't do this. You're going to get me shut down." And we're like, can we have a conversation? Because if I'm telling you that if you don't want to say something that we recommend, like that's fine. But also please understand, like we're making the recommendation knowing that we have responsibility in the conversation too. So we don't take those messages lightly because that needs to, we've got legal implications in there as well. And having done a lot of work with the FDA on multiple sides, but particularly Zona's in the midst of an FDA clinical trial. This is our second FDA trial. Trust me, I'm knees deep in the FDA. The reality is the FDA is looking out for consumers. They really are. Like, and I don't say that as I'm not stroking the FDA's ego, but I'm also not here to dog them either. Like their entire purpose is to protect consumers from predatory marketers.
Right.
And the truth is that's good that someone's doing that because as we just discussed, most people are kind of ignorant to what they're hearing anyways.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They've been taught to believe what they're told.
Well, what they hear in the media and whatnot. Now let me ask you something with the FDA. Would you say that there's potential corruption within the FDA?
Of course there is. I mean, there's potential corruption everywhere.
Right.
I mean, from the top on down, of course, there's potential for corruption. Do I believe there is corruption in the FDA? I don't believe there's a government agency where there isn't corruption because I think we are humans and there are people who are just drawn towards corruption. My problem isn't like, oh my gosh, blow the whistle, there's corruption. My problem is we have a system that doesn't punish it fast enough and doesn't make a point of ferreting it out.
Right.
So some people in positions have more power than they're probably entitled to.
Yeah.
What I find in working with the FDA, as I said, I always look at them as, sure, I don't like everything they have to say, and I find some of their input is unreasonable. But I'm always framing it from the perspective of I'm on a conference call with a group of people who believe that their entire job is to protect consumers. And if I'm approaching it from a very conservative, I'm trying to protect the consumer mindset, would I say the same thing that they're saying? And often I find they're misunderstanding something, or often I find that they're giving opinions on things that perhaps they don't have enough knowledge on, but they're doing what they think is right. I haven't personally run into what I feel is corruption. In fact, I've found most of the people that I deal with there to be quite amenable once there's a dialogue.
Yeah.
And
that is it, man. Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head because obviously being the chairman of the American IV Association, one of the things that we focus on is standardization and compliance.
Yeah.
And part of that, same thing, this is what we've noticed, is there's a lot of people in these very powerful positions putting legislation forward that just don't know enough about what they're even putting legislation
and it's
forward.
our job to educate them too.
And that's one thing that I always speak on is make sure you govern yourself before you're governed by someone else. Making sure that we take a lot of this data, put it together, make sure we're having our comprehensive protocols in place. So now when these legislators or any of these people in these very powerful positions start to actually question what we're doing, we can actually work with them, educate them, and you'll actually see how things change in our benefit. So
100%. Because well, and what I found, and I'll kind of wrap this up in one package and say, I'm a relational person, not a transactional person.
Right.
And I will say that all day long. And the reality is when people go into situations, I was told I was crazy because in all of our early meetings with the FDA, I attended every one of them and did most of the talking. Okay, every attorney, every FDA regulator, every person I talked to was like, you are out of your mind. And they're like, you have no business. And part of me probably felt a little prematurely arrogant because I'm like, man, I would sit at the table with the Department of Education all the time. Like I know how to deal with regulators was my pride. But I would say what I find is that these are humans too.
Right.
Like, and when you approach them and say, hey, look, I don't know everything. This is what I do know. This is the data I do have. And this is the help I need from you. I actually found an incredible amount of collaboration.
That's amazing.
I actually, and this is like unheard of. I remember a particular conference call where a member from the FDA review committee and whatever, and I won't give names, but he actually said on the call, I see what the problem is. Do me a favor, reach out to me when this call is over. I'll help you figure it out. And helped me write an entire section of our IDE, our study protocol. And he's like, I get why everybody is struggling with this section. Let me just help you with it. And like, I had other people that were like, the FDA helped you write part of the protocol. I'm like, yeah, they were very helpful. Like, isn't that normal?
Wow.
They're like, not at all. And I'm like, well, yeah, because I'm not a jackass when I get on a telephone call, and I'm not walking into all these meetings lawyered up and whatever. And I mean, I've got lawyers I work with on all this kind of stuff, but I genuinely believe that as an industry, we need to be willing to have conversations with those people at the FDA and the FTC the same. Like, they're trying to protect consumers from predatory marketing. I get it. I get why they do what they do.
You can't be at war with them.
Correct.
It's number one, you're not going to win.
Correct. Who wins? They win. There you go. Like,
so the collaboration is a must.
100%. And I think in the health and wellness, longevity, alternative medicine, whatever we want to call it, like we tend to demonize those organizations and, FDA. And it's like, well, sure, we got to be careful with the FDA, but we also need to realize that the FDA is just trying to watch out for the people.
Yeah.
Like, don't say things you shouldn't say. Be careful over promising on things. I get it. And I also understand from a marketer's perspective that it's tough to sell a product if you can't tell anybody what it does.
Right. Yeah. Very hard.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Like, and that's how we end up working with brands we want to story tell. Like, I don't need to tell you. Nobody wants to listen to how I just explained what Zona does. Like, there is no consumer in the world that's like, oh, how strange. My endothelium has actually hardened. And if I only had a way to trigger potassium release, like, no consumer friggin' cares. Right. And it's the reason why we're just going for the FDA endorsement on the marketing claim to say Zona is approved by the FDA, proven to lower blood pressure. Done. That's what a consumer wants to hear.
Yeah.
But more than that, a consumer wants to hear stories of people who have actually had a similar story to their own. People want to see themselves. And that's when I get into the marketing conversation here, Sam. And that is like, we need to learn how as brands to story tell in such a way that consumers feel like they are the center of the story and not me.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. Storytelling. So, I read a book that to me, it's like the number one book when it comes to like creating storytelling. It's written by Marcus Collins, who's he's got a PhD.
Mm-hmm.
He was Jay-Z and Beyonce's digital strategist for about 10 years. It's called For the Culture. And he goes in deep about storytelling. And he actually mentions, which he's definitely not on the Republican side. He's definitely a liberal on his end. But he actually mentions of like, who actually has, like, out of all the presidents we've ever had, who's done the best storytelling?
Donald Trump.
It's Donald Trump.
100%.
He's done it in a way where people will actually congregate and wear his name on their chest.
Absolutely. He's a marketing machine.
He is.
Whether you like him or not, he's brilliant at marketing. Donald Miller is one of my favorite authors, probably my favorite author. Funny enough, he was a great Christian author for many years and then pivoted into marketing. And now he runs a company called StoryBrand. And I actually heard him speak at a Tony Robbins conference last year. And it was so funny because like, he is not a Trump fan. He's not particularly a Hillary fan either, but he made a comment to people. He says, even before the 2016 election, and he's like, he's going to win. Like, he's just going to win.
Yeah.
And he's like, I never doubted that Donald Trump was going to win the 2016 election because Make America Great Again is a story everyone can get behind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with her doesn't include me.
Right.
It's a bad story. It's bad marketing. And he's like, at that point, the candidate's almost irrelevant.
Yeah.
The marketing won.
And Trump was always a great marketer since the
Always.
real estate dates. And I tell you, I don't know if you've noticed this. I mean, obviously you noticed this part, like when he was running this last time around, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was on like every single podcast you can think of, And
They say Joe Rogan won the election, right?
Right. And now that he's president, man, the content that he's putting out on his own page is incredible. I mean, it's state-of-the-art content.
He's a marketer.
And he's getting to the people.
Well,
through the content that he's creating.
Funny enough, I was just reading an article recently about Bo Loudon. You know who that is?
No.
Bo Loudon he's like 20-something young guy who's huge into the digital Instagram space, big follower, but he's friends with Barron Trump. And Bo has like an incredible amount of followers and stuff like that on social media, but he's like the young guy who represents the 20-somethings Republican movement. and he's friends with Barron because they're contemporaries. And they say that during the election cycle for 2024, it was Barron and Bo that were like, this has got to be a social media campaign.
Wow.
Like, this is a social media campaign.
I heard something about that.
And Trump leaned into it. And he's like, if that's where the culture is, then that's where we go.
Right.
Like, we're not going to play the stodgy old games. And I think it's, again, politics aside, from a marketing perspective, it's like Trump plays guerrilla warfare, like his sniper fire. And I mean, even the way that he nicknames people and everything else, like whether it's it works. It's kind of a tool kind of game, because I mean, it's not my thing. I don't like that. But at the same time, I'm like, it works.
Yeah.
Like he dehumanizes his competition, which makes them easier to dislike.
Yeah. Yep. So, man, marketing, it's one of those things that everybody has to do it. It doesn't matter what line of business you're in, you have to market. Yeah. I always tell people, like when I first started Liquivita, I would tell people I'm a marketing company first and a medical company second. Today, I actually tell people we're a software technology company first, marketing second, marketing PR second, and then medical third. Because without the first two, you don't have a business in today's world.
Fair.
So, I dealt with my own situations with the FTC. Obviously being a franchisor, the Federal Trade Commission is all over you. You're heavily regulated as a franchisor.
Well, yeah, because then you've got the potential for issues with companies that you're not even controlling.
Right, exactly. And then my issue was actually during COVID. During COVID, we actually put on our website, our former chief marketing officer, he put that we can help boost up your immune system with high-dose vitamin C. They didn't like that. We got the warning letter. But, when you get something like that from the FTC, it's like, now you got to go to work. So we had to hire an attorney out of Washington, D.C. that's very familiar with the FTC and stuff. But, the route that we went is exactly what you said. It's more of a collaborative effort. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, they were super nice throughout the process.
Yeah.
With us not flexing and saying, oh, no, this, we says, okay, well, what do you guys want us to do? They actually showed us, like, hey, you got to implement these certain protocols. These protocols have to go to your actual marketing agency so they understand how to market your medical business. Then you have to give these protocols to all your franchisees so they understand their marketing agencies. And you know what? Everything went smoothly. The warning letter was addressed and nothing else came up from it.
Yeah.
That collaborative effort went a very long way.
Yeah, you see the occasional rogue representative at those agencies that just wants to fight.
Right.
But I think by and large, like they're trying to, their job is to protect consumers.
Yeah.
And especially, I would say during COVID, you tell people that, this boosts your immune system and it gets translated as you won't get COVID.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's their fear, is what would the average person believe if they heard or read that message?
Yeah.
And for Zona, we had a marketing message at one point that said, what is it? Cardiovascular health right in the palm of your hand. It's a handheld device, right? And literally, I remember on a telephone call one day, one of the representatives was like, well, people may think as long as I'm holding this in my hand, I don't need to take my prescriptions anymore.
Oh gosh.
And now personally, I want to be like, well, that person needs nominated for the Darwin Awards, but but I kind of laughed at it and I'm like, well, respectfully, ma'am, like I understand your position that I suppose that could be interpreted, but I'm going to go to the reasonable man standard. Say, would the reasonable man believe that simply holding a piece of electronics in his hand was going to cure a cardiovascular problem and stop taking medications? Like, I understand that you could go to an extreme position and argue that, but is that reasonable? Like, is that really what we think the average person does? Because I think we've got a really low opinion of the American population if you think that's what people think. And they immediately backed down from it. And I remember my attorney on the call was like, oh my God, what are you doing? And I'm like, being reasonable. That's what I'm being. I'm being reasonable because they're not trying to shut you down.
Yeah.
They just want to make sure that you're not doing anything that hurts anybody, particularly with stuff like vitamin C, right? Like they're not there to argue that vitamin C improves your immune system. With all of the studies that we have on Zona from the Mayo Clinic, from Johns Hopkins. I could run down the list of all of the places that have done studies. In fact, today I was on a phone call helping FSU do an isometric cardiovascular study.
Oh, wow.
Like, it's not a hidden truth. Like, this is well-known science. It just needs to go through the gymnastics the way that everything needs to in order to make the claims that it's making. So the FDA, again, they were super amenable to us. Not to say that you don't understand that they are the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
So while you're relational, you're also incredibly polite.
Right.
Like you kiss the ring a little bit because that's just the way that game plays out.
Yeah. You have to.
Absolutely. You kiss the ring, but at the same time, it's understanding that we're on the same team. Like, we're trying to make America healthy again.
Yeah.
Right? Them included.
Yeah. I agree with that, man. So make America healthy again. Let's talk about it.
There you go.
So you got
Throwing you softballs
yeah,
here.
hey, no, listen. That's actually part of the podcast. We cover that topic on every single episode, man, because I want to hear the person's input, the guests on the show.
Yeah.
You got RFK Jr. He got confirmed. He's running the show, right? What are your thoughts about everything?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I think I mentioned earlier this tailwind that's behind the longevity industry. And I believe you want to talk about corruption in agencies and stuff like that. Like, having listened to so many of these talks, you and I have been in the same room a lot of times. As a matter of fact, we were just at the movie premiere for Toxic Nation.
What a movie, right?
Seriously.
Man.
Like,
Everybody has to watch that thing.
I laughingly say that I don't think anybody in that room walked away and learned anything.
Yeah, because we're all in it.
Because we're all in it, right? It was like, hey, wow. But like, at the other side of that, I'm like, man, like, this is going to be total red pill moment for so many people. A lot of people. Yeah. Like, for so many people. In fact, I had dinner at Eddie V's right over on Las Olas yesterday with a buddy of mine, and we were going to order the tuna tartare, and it specifically said that it's soaked in sesame oil.
Oh, gotta say,
and I asked her, I said, can I ask you a question? I'm like, is it possible to substitute the sesame oil for olive oil or something else in it? And then she came back and she's like, nope, actually it's I'm like, okay, well, don't serve us that. Like, I'll do the steak tartare instead because that actually is, extra virgin olive oil. Like, great, we'll substitute, that's fine. And the waitress even started talking to us and she's like, there's a restaurant right down the street, and I forget the name of it, that just opened. Like, they're completely anti-seed oil, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but who in the general population even thinks that way?
Yeah. Right?
Like, cook my steak, but please don't do it in oil. Please make sure that if it's cooked, it's in butter. Like, right. And she started even talking about, oh my gosh, like, they're frying things in beef tallow and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, exactly the way it should be. But I think the food pyramid's been upside down for too long.
Yeah,
I think the entire scope of what children are exposed to is completely upside down. The chemicals in food. I mean, the stories about Philip Morris after cigarette ads were banned, and then Philip Morris went and bought the food companies instead, right? Well, same thing, right? If you can't addict them to cigarettes, get them addicted to food.
They took all those lobbying people from the tobacco world and put them into the food.
Over to food. And we're just a fat country. We don't move. We're too lethargic. I always think of that Pixar movie WALL-E, that life just got so easy that everybody's just sitting around and can't even reach down to grab their remote control anymore. Like, it feels like that's where we are. And I don't think you and I live in South Florida, so I don't think we feel that as much.
Until we go back to the Midwest, right?
But when I go back to the Midwest, I got to tell you, dude, like, I go to Legacy Fit, the gym down here.
Oh,
Legacy's all beautiful. Like, everybody there's beautiful. Like, I go there and I feel like I'm like the damn old man. But it was like I go up north and I go to like an F45 up there. And I'll tell you, every time I go in there, I'm like, again, I'm so excited that people who are struggling with their health are going to the gym. So I'm not trying to criticize anybody, but I'm like, I go to the gym up there. I'm like, everybody at the gym is overweight. Wow. Again, I'm glad they're at the gym. But I'm like, how is this the entire membership of the gym is overweight? And
That's
I'm like,
scary.
This can't be normal. And it's a Midwest thing, right? Like, I'm sure you feel the same thing when you go back to Wisconsin.
Like, I always say that people are just preparing to hibernate or something,
Something in the middle of the summer.
Because they eat so much to get so big,
And it is, and it's comfort food. It's whatever.
Right.
And we don't feel it as much down here, and maybe in California and Phoenix and stuff like that, you don't see it as much, but it's like when you move around the country and because I'm always traveling, it's like, and there are clearly cultural pockets of people who are just unhealthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, my own aunt, okay, who's like 95 pounds. So, I mean, obesity is not her issue, but I had actually cut my finger at Easter, which is kind of a funny story because I literally like cut the top of my finger off.
Oh God.
Like ER stuff and everything. What's funny is like you can look at it, you can't even tell.
Oh wow.
And I'm like, it's part of being healthy, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
heal faster.
Yeah, that's true.
But her first response, do you need a pain pill? I'm like, no, I'm good.
No. Yeah.
As soon as I start,
yeah.
do you need a pain pill? Just take half. Like, no, like I don't want a pain pill. Like I'm fine. Well, no, that looks really bad. You need a pain pill. I'm like, it's the mindset of prescription nation.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's
People
not
have
what
been
I want.
programmed with that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's entirely, and Sam, I'll tell you this, like, I was just talking to somebody the other day on my podcast or otherwise, and I was saying that I'm a lifelong learner, and I'm like, except I feel like I'm in a stage of life, maybe in the last little while, that I'm unlearning more than I'm learning.
Yeah.
That it's sure I'm getting a bunch of new information, but so much of what I found myself willing to do in the last couple of years, especially, is question everything I thought I already knew.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep.
And like, how do we get more people to unlearn the things that they think they already know?
That's the goal. Yep.
Like, and I think that is the Maha movement.
I love it.
It's
Yep.
not about education. It's about uneducation.
Right.
Like, people have been indoctrinated into something. This is a deprogramming that needs to take place.
It is.
This is not even a new education. It's literally a deprogram.
And I tell you what, man, it's happening and it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a huge change in the course of medicine because of it.
I hope that's true.
Yeah.
And last week, like talking even with like Mark Hyman and stuff out at the Consumer Health Summit, it's like just listening to the way that people who are leaders in this health space are, and I'll say not aggressive. And I love our industry, if I can use that term. I think most of your listeners would understand that term. It's like our industry, right? It's health, it's wellness, it's longevity. It's not Western medicine. It's more the countercultural approach to health, which should be the cultural approach to health. But so much of what I'm seeing is we have forgotten that ancient wisdom actually was truth.
Yeah.
And we've gotten too smart for ourselves. And the things that grandma used to tell you to do are still correct.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
maybe
I
those
agree.
are actually true, right?
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
things that we understood. Like as dumb as this sounds, I had a cough all week from Phoenix dryness. And it's like the other night, I'm like, I don't have anything. And I'm like, man, I would have taken anything just to get a night's sleep because I just kept coughing every time I put my head to a pillow. And I'm like, all right, what would my grandma have done? But it's so funny because I'm like, I'm going to go make myself a cup of hot tea.
Put a
And
little
I'm gonna
honey,
put
a little
honey in
lemon,
it,
right?
And I'm going to put a little lemon in it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put a shot of whiskey in it.
There you go.
And I fell asleep because the
Yeah.
cough subsided. And I'm like, and it didn't require something from CVS. It didn't require an OTC.
That'll probably make
and-
it worse.
Right. Like, and I was like, yeah, that made more sense. Like, I immediately was wondering what I had in the medicine cabinet. And I'm like, and then a sudden I'm like, or just tea with honey, like maybe a little bit of whiskey in there to, trying to calm it down, but it's an anti-inflammatory. Like you literally just pulled down the inflammation in your own throat, just the use of honey. Like this is normal. This is ancient wisdom. And we ignored it for too long.
It's time to start applying it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mark, you got your book here, man.
I do, man.
You just published this.
The Many Faces.
Let's talk about it. What is it about? Why did you come up with the title?
I love provocative language, first of all. My first book was actually called Date Your Clients.
There you go.
Which everybody who, is that a good idea? And like, I made you stop, right? That's neurolinguistic programming, right? I'm pattern interrupting to make people wonder. And when I use the phrase radical generosity, it's my third book, my second being a book called Lower the Bar, which again, kind of makes you go,
Yeah, lower the bar.
bar?
I got to raise the bar.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah,
Like, but radical generosity, again, I think is like some provocative language that makes people say, like, wait a minute, generosity being radical. But I love the purpose of this entire book is it's my heartbeat. I believe that I'll quote Michael Fishman, who's a good friend, and I'll even go so far as say mentor of mine, who uses the phrase that the currency of success is impact. And we can build businesses, Sam, and we can push all of this kind of, science and witchcraft, some people would say, out into the ecosphere. But the reality is that our value as men is going to be defined by the impact we had on the world.
Absolutely.
And radical generosity is really my homage to that thought, that it's the way we impact the world. It's the way we show up. And we tend to think of generosity as being, I'll say, a financial platform. Like, well, generous people are the ones who give more, right? They're the ones who are giving at church. They're the ones who are giving to the poor. They're the ones who are donating to the big causes. And the bigger the check, the more generous they are. And I would argue and say that I don't find that to be true at all, because I think finances is one of 5 ways that I look at generosity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the other 4 being, what are you doing with your time?
With your time.
What are you doing with your wisdom? Your giving of your wisdom, even just being here on a podcast and not only being able to give your time and resources in hosting this, but you're bringing knowledge and wisdom, not just from you, but from other professionals into whatever ecosystem that you've created out of listeners, right? I'm going to say generosity of presence and in relationships. Like, how often are we willing to flip the phone over and just have a meal with somebody and be present? You know, I mean, a person grieving over the loss of a loved one doesn't need a check.
Right.
You know, they don't even need you to clean their house. Like, sometimes they literally just need you to sit there
and talk,
undistracted,
yep.
Or just sit there quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember a friend of mine's father died during COVID, in fact. And I left work as soon as I found out, because I found out from a friend who lives out of state. And I went over to her house and, you know, of course, cry, you know, whatever, she's dealing with this. And I sat on the couch and I said to her, I'm like, how do you want to process this news? Because her father lived in another country and she couldn't even go there while he was sick, and then couldn't even attend the funeral. And I'm like, what do you need right now? I need you to tell me, how can I be here for you? Is that, you want a meal cooked? Do you just want a hug? Do you want to cry? What do you want to do? Tell me, how are you going to process this grief right now? And it was funny because, like, her answer, I think, surprised me, but I think it would have surprised anybody, because she just looked up and she went, I'm hungry. I'm like, let's go eat. What do you feel like?
Yeah.
And it was like literally just, it was just presence.
Yeah. And you just being there and being able to support that process, man. You know, everything that you just mentioned about the book, about the impact, right? And your presence and giving, that's everything that I believe in, man. This is incredible that you put this in writing for other people to actually understand it. So where can people get this book?
It's available. You can go to themarkyoung.com. It's my website, and anybody can go look at it. They can look up anything else. And that's got all my contact information and social handles and everything on that website, obviously, as well. Go to Amazon, go to Audible, go to Apple Books, anything like that. It's on audio as well.
Yeah, we're going to put all those links right down below.
If you're listening to it in audio, I'm going to tell you, put it on 1.4x, because then it actually sounds like the way I talk. But yeah, it's available out there. And funny enough, and I'll tell you this, Sam, just to go one step deeper and say, because I keep doing that, and that is, like, chapter 2 specifically in this book, one of the things I love about it is it's almost like the biohack of generosity. Because I go into this conversation about how generosity actually affects our physiology. And people don't realize, like, we get so stuck in our own drama that we genuinely get ourselves in there. And when we focus on negative, we create more negative. Right. It's that quantum energy field that we create around ourselves. I'll get all woo and say, like, we create that environment around ourselves, and then we attract more of it.
Yeah.
But physiologically, like, the power of the words and the deeds that we actually put out into the world attract the same thing. And it's like, and I remember and I recall stories even in here of, in my own life, like, man, my life sucks right now. Like, what I can't think of a way, and it could be because I'm just stuck in my head, or I'm upset, or I'm mad, or I'm furious, whatever. I'm like, I don't know how to fix my problems today, but let's take a step out of my life and figure out whose problem can I solve? Because maybe I can solve someone else's problem.
Yeah.
And not only does that shift change the paradigm in our own head from reframing a situation, I think it also allows space for somebody else to come along and help me.
Right.
Because if I'm helping someone else, I'm leaving my problem for someone else to be able to help. But physiologically, it actually creates physiological changes in endorphins in the brain.
Yeah.
Like, just the thought of me giving you a gift releases dopamine and oxytocin.
You know what's crazy, man? That is my definition of what I say, what's rewarding for me. It's not the financial component of making money. It's those things. That's what drives me. And my father would always say, he said, you can't receive with a closed hand. So when you're talking about someone can actually come and help you while you're helping somebody else, that is it, man. That is it.
And
Yeah.
but just the idea that it shifts the brain physiologically,
Yeah.
just that helper's high, just that idea that I'm going to help somebody, like I'm on my way to do a good deed, and my own brain starts releasing love hormone.
Yeah, man. I
Like,
can't wait to read that book.
I appreciate that,
That's something that I vibe with a lot. So
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's
Mark,
been fun.
I'm gonna name some biohackers, and you're gonna answer with one word, only one word, what comes to mind. All right. So just one word. This will be
for a
quick.
Biohacker.
Yep. Gary Brecka.
Gary Brecka. One word. I don't know. This is a tough exercise, Sam.
Yeah,
I think Gary's a bit of a badass. I got to be honest with you. I like
Badass.
Gary.
Joe Dispenza.
Smart. Just wise, maybe the word I'm looking for. I love Joe Dispenza's work. Like, yeah, go ahead.
Dave Asprey.
Controversial. and I love Dave. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love Dave. But Dave is not afraid of saying what other people don't want. And part of it, I think, is his marketing.
Yeah.
But I think Dave, I just saw Dave, I was talking to him a couple weeks ago, and he's launching his new book, I think next week, and it's heavily meditated.
Yeah. Right.
And I actually told him, I heard him speak, and we were talking afterwards, and I'm like, Dave, like, I got to give you kudos. Like, that's the best I've ever heard you speak. Like, I've heard you speak for a decade now.
Nice.
Like, he was just comfortable being Dave, and it felt nice. Like, Dave's energy right now feels balanced.
He has a lot of fun too, man. He's very, he's like a comedian also.
Absolutely. He's funny.
Andrew Huberman.
Oh, wow. That's a good one. I want to say reach. Like, I think Huberman's got a platform that actually gets out to more lay people than industry people. Like Asprey's got like a cult following. Like Huberman's got a vast group of people. He's got impact.
Peter Artia.
So I just had a funny Peter Attia story the other day. So it makes me say unlicensed, but
Oh gosh.
Peter Attia came up as a juxtaposition to Casey Means, that Casey Means doesn't practice medicine, and so everybody is like, "Oh, you can't be Surgeon General. You don't even practice medicine right now." And it's like, well, yeah, but if that was Peter Attia, would you be saying the same thing? I think Peter Attia is super smart. I think he's very longevity focused, and I like that.
Cool. Last one, Ben Greenfield.
I'm going to give a good word for Ben. I love Ben. And what I love about Ben most is Ben is a Christian man who has doubled them. So I'm going to say believer, but I'm going to say what impresses me about Ben. And the last time I talked to him, I actually had that conversation. I'm like, Ben, like, I'm going to give you props because I've watched you lose followers in the last few years. Like Ben has started losing followers, and in his loss of followership, it's because a lot of people have attacked him for standing up for faith.
Mm.
And he's gone even harder into that message of faith. And it's been bold.
That's going to be interesting because I'm actually going to do a whole podcast on things that are biblical that reflect directly to health and wellness.
Oh,
and there's a lot of it.
I want to be part of that one because that's all over radical generosity.
There's a lot
Funny
of
that you started with Gary Brecka and ended with Ben Greenfield, though. Is this like a 10X ad?
Oh, God. Oh, shit. I didn't even notice that.
Like it starts with Gary Brecka, ends with Ben Greenfield. What just happened?
Cool, man. So, hey, Mark, man, if there's one person out there that resonates with everything that we talked about today, what is that one thing that you can leave them off with?
I'm gonna stick to my tried and true and tell you, be relational, not transactional. And I think that is everything to do with the health and wellness movement, because we can't beat people into health. We have to be able to relate with people in order to get a paradigm shift out of their minds. When it comes to marketing, we need to build relationships with people, not just try to make transactions out of them. When it comes to we talked about generosity. Generosity needs to be relational. It's not transactional. Like every topic we've talked about, I think I can distill down into that message. Like, build relationships, be present with people. It's not about the transactions.
I love that. I love that. Where can people find you, Mark?
Again, I'll say go to themarkyoung.com. Everything about me is there. Maybe not everything, but a good amount of it.
The good stuff. Awesome. Mark, it was a pleasure to have you on the podcast, man. This was
Likewise,
really
buddy.
good.
Appreciate you.
Guys, you guys heard it from Mark, man. You guys know exactly what I believe in, and it's about relationships. You know I don't vibe with people that are transactional. You got to always put relationships first. That's how I got where I'm at today. You guys have heard my TED Talk. It's only about relationships. I did 16 minutes of a TED Talk on specifically relationships and talking about not being transactional. So what Mark is saying is something that I believe in, and it's something that you have to tap into. Make sure you get his book. Make sure you subscribe, follow, do all that fun stuff, and we'll see you for the next one.